Alright, so this is a not so quick feature video on a toy line that I hold very near and dear because it was something my brother was really, really big into when he was around my age, probably younger, definitely younger. Um, but that is G.I. Joe. Specifically the classified collection and then the 2000s era that came after the 12-inch figures that used all the classic collection parts. So the classic collection era and style of figure was, one of my brother's favorite toys growing up, and he gave me all of his G.I. Joes, and so then they became mine, and I took care of them and handled them and all that. So, I have quite the attachment to this toy line, and it's one of my favorites. Um, but before G.I. Joe Classic Collection, there was, of course, the Adventure Team. There was the Real American Hero era. There was the Hall of Fame, all of which I have figures from, of course. But before any of that, there was this guy, which is the original G.I. Joe, the military era figure. Of course, this toy line came out in 1964. This is not a figure from 1964. He's probably from 1966, maybe 67. I don't really know. Um, if you can, so I guess I should start off with like what makes GI Joe unique, right? So GI Joe, a lot of people watching this video probably don't know this. GI Joe is actually the very first action figure. Hasbro created the term action figure to market a doll for boys, pretty much. And they created this guy. He was based off of an artisan's mannequin. Those like wooden figures that you can pose and you use it for like figure drawing, whatever. They designed the body off of that. Like they used that as their base point of reference, and they made a super articulated, dressable figure who looks eerily like JFK. So that's fun. This figure doesn't, I don't think, but it depends on the head sculpt. There are many variations of the G.I. Joe head, and some of them, man, they really look like JFK. Um, Others don't, but this is one of my favorite figures in my collection of all time. The Tank Commander is a very rare piece. It can be very, very hard to find. What you see here isn't actually the rare part. The rare part is the helmet and the radio. I didn't want to transport that, though, from my dad's house, so this is what you get today. Um, Plus, also, the helmet would kind of hide the head. So, underneath the uniform, there is, of course, a nude figure. Um, that's kind of the whole, like, marketing aspect of it is you have the figure is your base product, right? They sold the figure separately, and then you could buy the uniform to put over it. Anyone watching this who knows is familiar with the razor and razors like theory of selling things. That's kind of the marketing approach that they took to this. So basically, you buy your razor, um, which is, it's pretty useful. But then the real moneymaker is off of the razor blades. So in this instance, the G.I. Joe is the razor, and the razor blades are the uniforms and the gear and everything that you had to buy to get a more like expressive figure, basically. So instead of like what companies do now, of course, like dressable figures aren't really a huge thing anymore, right? You have like NECA and Mezco, like the 1/12 collective figures and Hot Toys, but those aren't really marketed the same way this was, because this was marketed with the idea where you could buy one figure and then you could buy a uniform to go on the figure, so you didn't have to buy it. Like in theory, you didn't have to buy multiple figures. You only needed to own one figure. All you needed was a bunch of uniforms. So this figure was not sold in the Tank Commander uniform. At least I don't think. I don't think the Tank Commander was sold like this. But he's 12 inches tall. Uh, Basically, I think he's a foot. He might be 11. I don't know. For anyone who somehow doesn't know how big that is. Here he is next to a D&D rock golem, because everybody knows how big that is. So, yeah, that's pretty much that. Everything is functional on these figures, for the most part. So, of course, as I already established, the figure can be dressed and undressed, but you can also, his pistol is in his holster. You could have removed that. Now the holster is like completely solidified because it's old vinyl, and if I tried to remove the pistol, I would probably break it. So I'm not gonna do that. And it could be clasped and unclasped. The canteens came in holders that could hold the canteen. You could pull the canteen out. Um, the bayonets could be fastened and unfastened. Everything was completely interchangeable. Everything was functional. The cartridges for the M1 Garand, the belt that held the fake like ammunition. Like there wasn't ammunition in the belt, but the belt was like this molded pocket, and you could open the clasp. There was nothing in it, of course, because it was molded plastic, but it's still cool. Um, if you get more complex with it, with like the combat soldier, you've got figures that have like you've got the tent and the sleeping bag, the entrenching tool, everything. You have like a soldier that you can actually act out his duties. It was a genius in like approach to making toys. It's just a brilliant concept. But yeah, so this figure here, one of my favorite figures in my collection. The head is in very good condition, very common, of course, because these things are so old. Very, very common for the hair to be chipped, damage to the face, whatever. Not much of that on this guy. For the most part, his head is really clean. I know it's kind of hard to see with the glare. But there's almost no spots on him. There's like a couple chips taken out of the eyebrow and a little bit of white missing from the eye. But that's really it. So this was basically the starting point with this entire toy line, was like these figures. Um, and yeah, so of course today these are still like really big collector's items, right? So you can imagine the world's very first action figure kind of builds a reputation for itself. So after these guys were, the Vietnam War wasn't all too popular. Parents didn't want their kids playing with war-themed toys. There was a big like protest and boycott. So they switched over to the adventure team. So then once you get to past the military era, as they call it, of G.I. Joe, you get to the adventure team. And I am going to make separate videos, most likely, on these two toy lines. So not going to go super, super hardcore with the, like, showcasing on all this stuff. But this is your base figure here for the adventure team. This is the Land Adventurer, of course. This is from 1970. Here he is with his original box that he came in. Cool part about this, it's still got some Christmas Day wrapping paper on it from 1970, maybe 1972 or 3, I don't know, but that's pretty cool. And just to demonstrate, for anybody wondering, the box, they call this a coffin box. It opens like this. So there you go. There's inside, it holds your figure. There's nothing really on the inside. Everything was about the front and sides. So the sides show off the tiger. Or no, this is the capture of the pygmy gorilla. That is the name of it. I believe the term pygmy is considered offensive now, but back in the 1970s it wasn't. Secret Mission to Spy Island, down there. That's a very, very classic set. I love that one. The White Tiger Hunt. I do have the other, like the White Tiger Hunt that was made in the 90s, and that one was more focused on tracking and protecting the animal. In the 1970s, they were killing them. So, yeah, hunting endangered animals is pretty based, and then you've got the Fight for Survival, which is another classic, very awesome set. So, yeah, great box art, and of course, you can see the gorilla in the back right there, so that's pretty cool. I love the box art for these. It looks like painting. It's just some of the best box art in my opinion. And then you've got the figure. So in the 70s, they did a lot of innovating with the figures. You know, in the 60s, it was more about the gear and what they were doing with the add-ons. But in the 70s, they were encouraging kids to buy more figures because I would imagine in the 60s, kids probably only had like maybe 2 or 3 figures. In the 70s, they made figures with different hair color for each position of like the adventure team, which I guess you could kind of look at like you could maybe look at that as sort of like a protective force, not really the National Guard, um, but they were like basically military. I guess like a good way to look at it from at least this is the way I look at it. I could be wrong, but I look at them as like a military level organization of like first responders. So you've got the land adventurer here with his camo outfit here. They all came with might be hard to see it, but there's a sticker right there on the shirt. And then I'll move this box out of the way because I'm a little worried about damaging it. So the holster can come off, but these things are super delicate. There's this little plastic nub that keeps it on him, and it is pretty easy to knock off. So to break off. So I'm gonna try not to do that. But the revolver can be removed right there. So there's the revolver. The trigger guard is usually broken on that, but when I do end up making a video on these guys, which will be a very in-depth video, I will cover all of the stuff on that. For the most part, everything is the same as the guy I just showed, except, of course, the glaring difference is right in front of you. It's the fact that he has flocked hair. So, they used, like, electrostatic flocking, or whatever to, kind of get the hair on these guys. I think what they do, or how it was done, rather, is they, put the head on some sort of, like, metal fitting, and then they would spread glue on it, and they would charge the metal fitting, and when they would put static charged little pieces of like not really, kind of like fibers, I guess. I don't really know. It's kind of weird. It kind of feels like low grit sandpaper or high grit sandpaper. I don't know. I forget what it is, but it's like the stuff that's smoother is kind of how it feels. If anyone, like if you ever get your hair cut really short and you kind of run your fingers along to like the back of your head, that's kind of what this feels like. Is the best way I can really describe it. And then he got a dog tag that has the Adventure Team logo on it. So that's the same logo that is stickered on his shirt. So that's pretty much a general overview of the early days. And now I'm going to go on to kind of the in-between of 12-inch and then get on to the classic collection. Alright, so I don't really have a very good way of showing off the boxes for these next two figures. This is a Hall of Fame figure. I would say overall, I do like this figure. I left him in the box. This was a gift from my aunt. But overall, I would say these figures are definitely not as sophisticated as what came after them, but that does make sense progressively, right? Like the first one would be kind of more rough. But so here's the box. This is Grunt. These are remakes of these are like 12-inch rough and tumble versions of the 80s figures. So they took the 80s era G.I. Joes. If anyone out there knows the Real American Hero G.I. Joes, you've got like Snake Eyes, Duke, Stalker, Cobra Commander, all those guys. They basically took them and they sort of reimagined them as these sort of like really, I guess, more high tech would be the appropriate way to put it, because these are definitely more futuristic than what came out at the time. What I like about this figure is, so if you look at his head there, I'm going to give you a second to closely examine that so you can really pay attention to it. And then you can feel free to pause the video if you need to. Then if you look at the head on his file card there, that face is very clearly not the same guy. And this is something that you can see on a lot of older toys if you go back and look, really take the time. Is a lot of these things, the box art is actually prototypes. So that is probably a prototype head on the box art, and they didn't bother to reshoot the photo, so the prototype for this figure kind of lives on in the box art. At least I think that's probably what that is. Of course I didn't make it, so I don't know. But that would be my best guess as to why it's different. But yeah, this figure is still sealed in the original box. It's pretty cool. I like having it hanging on my wall, kind of like it would be in a toy store. So that's pretty cool. And then the next figure I have here is actually, I believe it's on a foreign card. So this is the Navy guy. It doesn't have a cross sail on the back. But this is a classic collection. Well, actually, no, this is just a G.I. Joe. So, this was when they stopped calling it Classic Collection, and they just started calling it G.I. Joe, which is pretty cool. But this guy is still sealed on his card. I got this at Kentuckiana. I like it. You know, it's cool. I think that's Spanish. I should know because I took like 5 years of Spanish. I believe Marina Armada US is Spanish for, well, I don't actually know what Marino means. That might be sailor, because, you know, that's what he is. So another important thing to note, when I go back, eventually when I go back and remake, or not remake, but when I make a video on the old G.I. Joe figures from the 60s, I will show off the 4 key figures, and they made all 4 branches of the military. And they did the same with these guys. So this is basically like their version of just the Fatigues action sailor. This guy pretty much existed exactly as he does, or as he is right now, existed in the 60s. Just, you know, not the 1990s, it was the 60s. Actually, this was from 2001. But yeah, so the thing about this that's interesting to me, so okay, I think this is from Mexico because it has this sticker on the back here, and it says Hasbro de Mexico, or Mexico actually is how you pronounce that, but I believe that is Spanish, so this might be from Mexico, but it's interesting to me that they didn't rewrite the message, or just like they didn't bother to translate it into Spanish, so yeah, you can read that there. I hope you paused it, because I'm not waiting around for you. So I'm going to get on to the figures I have to show off today. I have 6, I think, 6 or 7 figures. So I'll start. Alright, so this first figure I'm going to show off is actually the figure you just saw on card. So this is the sailor. He didn't come with this grease gun. Actually, he would have come with a pistol or nothing, or an M16. It was one of those 3. I think they made variants of each depending on when and where you got it. So something that I'm a little worried about with this video, I'm just going to say this right now. There might be a lot of cuts because these things do not stand, okay? Something you need to understand about these figures, they are made well, but not made well, which makes no sense, but they took a lot of time and care into designing them, but they did not think that giving them rubber boots would be a problem, so if you have him leaning just the slightest bit forward, he's not going to fall because I'm recording, but when the camera's turned off, he falls off the shelf, like, it's really easy. If I just blew on it. Okay, of course, take my word for it. he will fall forward. It's very easy. I'll just give him a little love tap, and there he goes. So, if anyone's out there, watches my videos, and thinks, oh man, that would be a really nice toy line to collect, you're going to want to set aside an extra, like, $100 to invest in stands for the figures you get. Of course, a stand isn't $100. I think they're probably, like, 10. But it's a good idea, because you really don't want these guys falling, not because necessarily they will break, which they will, right? Of course, if something falls from a high place, it's going to break. You know how to break something. But mainly if you have anything else around, these guys are very heavy and they will take it out. They will absolutely body slam your other figures. So just be mindful of that. They do like to fall down. But I'll go over, like, the basics of this figure. This is the simplest figure I'm going to show off. So, the head is on a ball joint. It's on a similar setup. I didn't go over the articulation on the other two. I'll save that for their individual videos. But the head is on a ball joint, so it gets really good range of motion. But it doesn't look up too far, actually. So that's about as far as he looks up. So if you want him sniping, you've got to make a little bit of, you got to get kind of creative with it, right? So the other figures look up a lot farther. This guy does not. And then for some reason, they also put his head on a neck hinge. So he has a swivel at the neck and then a ball joint at the base of the neck. So this joint up here is kind of rendered useless by this range right here. So it's an interesting decision. His cap comes off. So there you go. I think this is actually from Cotswold. I know it didn't come with this figure, so I don't know actually where I got it. He's got his shirt equipped with a rust stain and a cop going by outside. Sorry about that, if you could hear that. So yeah, there's a rust stain right there on his jacket. Excuse the condition of most of these figures. I only have 2 that are new. Everything else that I'm going to be showing off today is either my brother's or I bought it secondhand. So there is a couple stains on this guy. I don't know if they're like spaghetti stains or rust stains, what they are. And yeah, because this is a used figure, he's kind of floppy. So you're going to want to, again, be mindful of that. It can be hard to find a happy medium with these guys because right out of the package, they are hard. They are really, really stiff. The joints do not move. They are locked up. It's like they are super glued. You've got to heat them up. You've got to move them around. Normally, I would say, a figure that needs to be heated is not a good figure, but these are old. You have to expect that kind of thing with this. So if you're someone out there, again, this segment is made with the intention of, like, anyone might be buying this, right? You never know. If anyone out there is thinking, maybe I want to collect these guys, which I do recommend it, they're very affordable, heat your figure before you go messing with it. Just use a hairdryer. Maybe about a minute on the elbows and knees is where you're really going to need it because they're fastened with just a pin, a plastic pin through the elbow. And I'm telling you right now, dude, that will break. It will not hold up. So definitely apply some heat to the elbow and knee joints. Just get them nice and smooth. Move them back and forth a little bit. And then you should be good. You really, really, really want to be careful when you are handling these for the first time because they will break. They are not afraid to break on you. So going on to some of the little things about these guys that are interesting. First of all, I'll just show off his weapon really quickly because it is pretty cool. It's a little bit goofy. It's huge. I don't know how big a grease gun is supposed to be. In case you couldn't tell, I don't own one. So, it has this hatch that opens right here. Not a lot of detail in there, just black paint. I don't actually know what that's for, but it's kind of cool. The stock comes out, goes back in, and the magazine comes out, and he's got bullets in there. So, that's pretty cool. I don't know if the magazine, if the bullets are supposed to be side by side like that. I feel like they're not, but, that would be a good question for Kentucky Ballistics. So, I'm not Kentucky Ballistics. But the gun goes well in his hand. The grip is very, very big. That gun goes best with these kinds of figures. So there are, I guess, 3 types of figures. So this is the earlier build. He's got, hang on, I'll take his shirt off. Alright, this video is no longer for kids. His shirt is off. Sorry to any children watching this. So, I will mention this again when I show off some other figures, but his arms are skinnier. He's, not as shredded, and, like, superhero-like as other figures. This is kind of reminiscent of the original line, where the figures were built more normally, and then they remade them. They made the muscle body, and the muscle body is, like, a lot more shredded, looks a lot more like a superhero. These guys are not. They are... This specific build of figure has the, like, thin arms and big hands. So these hands, a lot of people don't like them. I believe they call them the ham hands. I like them, actually. They hold a lot of the weapons very well. Better than, actually, most figures. From other lines. So, you know, better than some of the vintage figures. And, yeah, of course, like, he's got the death grip on this grease gun. You know, you are the only thing standing between him and his shirt, and he's going to cut you down. So he's got the death grip on that grease gun, and it's not letting go. You know, his hat's going to come off here. But, again, grease gun, very secure in his hand. So, yeah, that build of figure is pretty good. And then he's got the... I'm not going to take his boots off because, again, they require heat. That's another thing I'm going to mention as well. There are 2 designs of the feet for these figures. So there is the heelless foot, which is kind of similar to the baby foot from the G.I. Joe line. If anyone knows what I'm talking about, it's like a smaller foot. This guy, his feet are going to be bigger, so they're not going to go into boots as nicely as other figures will. So the ones without the heel were released later. This guy was released earlier in the line, so that's how you know. And yeah, it's more of a hassle to get the boots off, so Hasbro was just like, yeah, cut the heel off, why not? So, that's pretty cool. Again, you know, there's this guy. That's him. Basic figure. So now that the, you know, basic showcase on the figures is done, I'll move on to the next figure I have to show, which is this guy. I don't know his name. IDing these figures can be really hard. I forgot, but this was my brother's figure. He's got an army shirt on, that is molded to the chest, so, that's interesting. But, yeah, this was a really, really cool figure back in the day. Back in the glory days of KB Toy and Hobby, you could probably buy this guy for, like, $3. You know, this carded sailor that I have here, this guy, the price tag reads $7. Deep discount closeout price for $7. So, yeah, I got him for $7. I am very, very fortunate to have gotten him for $7. Because that figure probably would go for like $25. So, I don't know how much this guy goes for because I forgot his name. I think it's like 187th Soar or something like that. So yeah, he looks really good. The helmet, the visor lifts up so you can see his beautiful eyes. The head sculpt is the same. There's a lot of similar head sculpts on these figures. So that's something that if you don't like that, then maybe this isn't the line for you, but also that probably means G.I. Joe isn't the line for you, because pretty much every G.I. Joe is the same guy. So, yeah. But this is, you may notice on this figure, he's got different hands. Yes, my friend, he does. He's got articulated fingers, which is pretty cool. So his trigger finger moves independently. So I'll show, I don't know how well this is going to come across on the camera. So take his helmet off before it falls and hurts somebody. So his trigger finger moves independently, okay, so you can see that there, right? And then his other three fingers, so middle, ring, and pointer, or middle, ring, pinky, there we go, middle, ring, pinky move together. And then left hand is on a horizontal hinge, so you can see it moves like that. And then his right hand is on a vertical hinge, so he can hold his weapon, kind of like that. I'll get it back into his hand so you can properly see it there. But, oh, his belt fell off. Well, I'll just leave his belt off for now. I'm not going to wrestle with it. But yeah, so you can kind of get him to fall over. You can get him to kind of hold it like that. So I'm not going to try and get him standing again. Something to note as well, the later figures, like this guy, that have no heels on the feet, really don't like to stand. So, because there's nothing stopping them from falling backwards, they fall backwards a lot. It is what it is. So, I'm running short on time here, because I don't want this to be like a 40-minute video. So I'm just going to show off these next 4 figures in rounds of 2. So I've got this guy here. I forgot his name. I think he's the U.S. Air Force crew chief. And then I've got this guy, which is sort of a custom that I made, but he's got a bunch of gear on. Oh, he's fallen. Okay. I'm just going to prop him up. There. So this guy on the left is, he came with a Foot Locker. And then the mask and coat came in one set with I think some like climbing equipment. Yeah, it came with this pick and the rope. The 2 bags on the front and the belt are from the paratrooper set, and then the backpack and gun, I think. No, the gun came with the mask and coat, but the gun and backpack came with a mortar. So if you put all of that on this figure, you get this guy, and then this guy was sold as is. He is my favorite, just like carded figure. I think he looks really good. Simple and cool, Never beat the rule of cool. So, yeah, that's that stuff. I like both of these figures a lot, especially this guy. I'm very, very happy with how he came out. I love him. So that's those guys. I'm gonna kind of fly through these next figures, just because I want to round this video out. So then there's this guy right here, is a Navy figure. He came with a cannon, so that's something. I'm probably going to make a follow-up video to this. I might not. I don't know. I have a couple more things to say about these guys, and then I'm going to end it. But, this is a Navy SEAL. So, this guy came with a cannon. He did not come with a rifle. And this guy came with, actually, I don't know what the figure with the black molded t-shirt came with. I still have to figure that out. But this is the Navy SEAL gear. And this figure came with the, like a battleship cannon, basically. Awesome, awesome set. I love that thing. It's massive. I might do a video on it at some point, but, yeah, there's not really a lot else to say about these guys. They kind of speak for themselves. One thing I am going to say just before I wrap this up is, if anyone is looking to collect these, I would recommend buying what you can boxed, but don't be afraid to buy them loose. If you're going to buy them loose, try to buy them in person, so you can really feel for any damages that might be on the figures, because when they're broken, it's really hard to fix them. I'm working on that. I'm working on figuring out ways to fix these guys. Until then, I don't have anything for you. I would recommend just buying them new or buying them loose if you can handle them in person. But if you do buy them loose, you have to be prepared for these weird, like, stains that are going to be on the figures. I don't know what these are. You can see one on his forearm right there. There's like a plastic, like a gray mark. Let me brighten this up here so you can see it. That didn't really help. Well, there's a mark there. They're all over these figures, all over the place. It's a big problem. But there's nothing you can really do about it, right? So, yeah, that's really it. I love this line, love these figures. I think they look great, very affordable. If anyone's looking into getting into GI Joe, you don't really know where to start, but you just want to get like a really nice collection. Definitely look into these guys, man. These are really, really solid figures. Very durable. Very realistic. Not in my opinion, not as good as the vintage line, but they definitely hold up, and they're really, really fun, and they look good on display too. So that's about it. I'll see you later.